I'm Jackie Albarella. Welcome to Gardening for Real People. Now, if you're one of those people that thought hostas were kind of boring and that there weren't really a lot of different varieties, wait till you see what we have on today's show. Ran Lydell has over 20,000 varieties of hostas, and each one is more beautiful than the next. You're going to get to learn all about them. On today's show, we're going to introduce you to the easiest and most beautiful perennial you could have in your garden, the hosta. We'll also give you a tip on how to keep the rabbits from eating your lettuce. And if you like those begonias that you have in your garden this year, we'll show you how to take a cutting and you can have the same ones next year. If you're like me, you might have a few of these things sitting around all summer long. I use them in the winter to store things in my garage, but in the summer they pretty much sit empty. Well, I found a use for them in my garden. I've got a terrible problem in my garden with rabbits eating just about everything. And although I fence things in like my beans, I don't want to have to put fences everywhere. My lettuce, I like to fill in holes in my beds here and there with them, so I can't put a fence around every single bed. Well, guess what? These work perfectly to keep the rabbits from munching on my beautiful lettuce. All you do is take one of these plastic containers, turn it over on top of the lettuce, and it keeps the bunnies away. It's heavy enough that the rabbits can't knock it over or knock it off, and the lettuce still gets plenty of light and plenty of water. So here you go. Here's a use for these crates in the summer. When I'm all done with them in the garden, I hose them off, and they're all ready to store my winter things. Container growing gets more blah, blah, blah.
Every 13 seconds, a break-in occurs.
Even though it was dark, I could see two men in ski masks in my room.
When we got home, the TV, stereo.
My jewelry, all gone.
I heard the noise downstairs and I just froze.
Stories like these are why over 1 million people depend on Protection One for home security. We offer more than a simple alarm. We offer monitored protection, a person-to-person connection to save a home or a life. Now, for a limited time, you can get a Protection One remote response system free. You pay only a low monthly monitoring fee and one-time activation charge. This package comes with everything most homes need, plus a free remote control.
Now, whether I'm home or not,
I know that Protection One is there for us.
Every minute of every day.
Call now for a free in-home security evaluation and just for phoning this 12-page safety booklet. Act today. Remember, in the few seconds it takes to make the call, another break-in will occur. Protection One, the security you need from the team you trust.
Isn't this hosta beautiful? You know, hostas can add terrific color and lots of different textures to the garden. And they're also really pretty easy to take care of. At Eagle Bay Hostas, Ran Lydell has over 20,000 varieties. We visited him and he told us all about what's happening in the world of hostas. How long have you been growing and working with hostas?
About 20 years.
Yeah.
We
and
used
how did you start with
and landscaping long before that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we had a customer who had a difficult spot. We tried all the weedy ground covers like honeysuckle and ajuga that everybody tries, and none of them worked. It was too wet. And I just suddenly decided, well, I've never killed a hosta. We'll try an old undulata hosta in there. And they exploded. And he said, I don't care what these are, bring me more of them. And I said to my wife, who helps me with my business, we better pay attention here. There's something good going on I need to know more about. So
Great.
that kind of got me started.
And how long have the gardens been here?
The older part of the gardens we're going to see next were started about 18 or 19 years ago, just as a demonstration for my customers to come see. This garden that we're walking through right now is 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah. Tell me about this garden
Well,
that's
we're right
here.
at the entrance to the gardens here. This is what you see when you drive in. And we made an attempt here not to have this formal. We could have used 3 concentric circles. And we have 3 hostas here. The little gold one in the front is Golden Scepter. It is an all-gold tiara. The next one back is Halcyon, and the furthest back is Invincible, which is fragrant.
Hostas seem to be real popular all of a sudden. I mean, are they more popular now than they have been in the past?
Well, they are
or?
here. Like any plant, it's a question of availability. Maple trees wouldn't be popular if there weren't any maple trees available. The reason we have the garden here is so that you can walk in and see mature plants. You don't have to wonder what that little thing in the container is going to look like 3 years from now. You can come and see it, take pictures, take notes, and make intelligent decisions.
Great. Now, is that pretty typical that a hosta will take 3 years to really reach its full
That's
maturity?
usually what we think of. Some can take lots longer than that, and some of these things I can almost feel the roots coming out when I put it near the ground. They grow so quickly, you know. They do have a pretty much limited eventual size, though, and we can predict that. Okay. That does vary with the site, but we can pretty well predict that.
And as we move on to the next garden, tell me, what is a good site for hostas?
I had put the stone walls up, and I wanted to do a demonstration garden with grasses, hostas, and daylilies. And there are varying light needs and site needs for those plants. We have about 3 hours to 3.5 hours of sunshine coming in the morning, but not enough in the afternoon for grasses. So I started looking at how the sun comes through these trees, and I noticed that there's a streak of light there at 2 o'clock, and over there a streak of light at about 3:30 that is actually about an hour and a half of light. Voila, 5 hours for my grasses. So we drew a line around there, planted the grasses, did the hostas and the daylilies, and then the paths were whatever was left over. So that's how we designed this.
That's
it worked
great.
with the way nature provided.
What kind of soil do hostas like?
Most of the hostas prefer a very rich, humusy soil with a constant, steady supply of moisture, sort of like you give a rhododendron or azalea. Where they thrive, usually hostas thrive as well.
Why don't we start over here and talk about the hostas that are in here?
I'll point out some new ones that are really nice. Here's Patriot. We probably will see another one of those a little later on. And there's also a newer one, Minuteman, that's a little darker in the center. Zager's White Edge is a very white one. Little hostas are really nice. Now that's a full-grown little wonder. It's a Lockman hybrid, and it's only a little over a foot across, and probably won't get much bigger than that. On the other hand, we're going to look at some in substance over there, which can get 10 feet across.
Wow.
Inniswood is very popular. It's a near yellow center on it, and one of my favorites is Summer Fragrance. This one has a very nice fragrant lavender bloom, and I especially like it because at my height it just comes near my nose, you know, so and it smells like gardenias. But look at that beautiful plant.
That is.
See how nicely formed that is. That it only took a couple of years after I planted it to fill out like this. And the foliage is gorgeous. Maybe I'll take one of those to this week's leaf show.
There.
And the flowers are very pretty on it. And as we go along, I'm going to be talking a little more about hosta flowers because some of the old hostas had pretty awful looking flowers. And I use a weed whip and I take them right off of there. But some of the new hostas have got gorgeous blooms. We're doing better and better with hosta flowers. And someday I predict you're going to buy a hosta because you like the blooms, not because you like the foliage.
Okay. Well, we'll hold you to that. This is a beautiful one.
This is, we have different kinds of hostas based on old hybridizing groups or species from the wild. That's a fragrant one. All the fragrant ones come from old August lily, which is properly known as Plantagenea, a species from Korea. This one is Blue Shadows. Blue Shadows is a Tokadama, and isn't that beautiful foliage on that?
It is gorgeous.
It's just hard to beat the looks of that, and it's very tough. If you could touch that, you'd find that it's just like leather.
It is.
The slugs can't get this one. We have a lot of them that are slug resistant, and we actually see slugs going by here with a disappointed look on their face. They know it's no use in even trying that. This plant called Steady On is from wild collected seed from Japan. It was sent through another person to me from Kinsey Watanabe in Japan. And if you look underneath, you'll see sort of cinnamon colored stems on it.
Yeah.
and beautiful glossy foliage. We can take this and use it as a hybridizer's tool by taking pollen from this and putting it on a streak breeder. I might get back this plant with these nice little ruffled edges and a white margin on it. Imagine that beautiful glossy plant with a white margin. So that's the kind of thing we're constantly looking for and working with to improve the way hostas work.
And so hosta hybridizers kind of work together and exchange seeds
That's
and
absolutely
information.
correct.
So
That's absolutely correct. There will be hybridizers here this weekend who I will be offering a few plants to because they've given me some nice things.
Right.
And our goal, almost universally, although there's a few exceptions, is among ourselves to actually improve this plant so that it's better all the time. The large leaf plants here are Ceboldianas. This, incidentally, is a catalpa, and it's got 4 glorious days when it blooms, and then a week and a half of misery when it drops the blooms all over my hostas. So all this is not snow. This is my catalpa shedding. These large leaf plants in here may be in a bit too much sun, but they require afternoon shade. They're Ceboldianas, and if you put those in too much sun, they bleach out. And you can see here a bit of what's happening. This, if you note it, has got both bleaching of the blue. The blue, incidentally, while we're doing this, is just a powder on the surface of the leaf. So if you give it too much sun, that will wear off and do this, or melt off.
Yeah.
So wind and rain and sun destroy these blue hostas. This is European ginger. Isn't that beautiful glossy foliage?
Beautiful.
European ginger is so shade tolerant that Francie hosta over there will actually grow over the top of it, and it'll look beautiful under there in the summertime. You can't quite grow it in the basement, but almost.
Yeah.
It requires very good steady moisture, so it's a good plant to use with hostas to fill little spots and give you a slightly different texture look with your plants.
And that's really what hostas are all about in the garden, isn't it? Primarily the textures.
Yes,
and
we think that most people find the most appealing part of the hostas in the subtle, cool varieties of color and the nifty textures. And when you see one, you may not realize how good the texture possibilities are. But then when you see a whole group of them, you can begin to see that. And when we get in the West Garden, we'll see more of that. Okay. This little plant here is Peridot. This is one of our hybrids. Peridot is dark green, very slug resistant, glossy, and it has another characteristic that I like very much. It still looks good in October.
Yeah.
And
That's
this one
great.
has near pink blooms that are short, just above the foliage. It's a joy to see it bloom.
I bet.
This is Lunar Orbit. In the sun, this becomes butterscotch in the center, and you can see the color starting to show there. The leaves become near round and puckered. We like puckered leaves, look really nice. It's very slug resistant, nice short lavender blooms. It's everything a hosta should be, and it's kind of what I epitomize when I go to hybridize one. This is kind of my thinking. Next to it is a very neat species that grows on rock outcroppings in Japan. This is Hypaluca with white backs, and white backs on a hosta give it a kind of glow, nice little frilly edges, and it's a nice plant. Hypaluca is a great species. The other plant in here that's worth noting is Sum and Substance. We looked at a little one. We'll see some even smaller ones, but this is a big one. Look at the individual leaf here. We're looking at a leaf. You can see by my hand, I have fair-sized hands, but that's not making much of a dent on that great big dinner platter-sized leaf, and the leaves can become bigger. This plant is just a young one.
Yeah.
It's only about 7 feet across. Mature Sum and Substance hostas can get up to almost 10 feet.
It's almost prehistoric looking. Like something you'd see in the dinosaur age.
It's amazing. That's right. And sometimes you look at this and you think something large with teeth ought to be jumping out from under it or something. Right. A lion would look good down in there. Green pie crust is a kind of historic hosta, and there's several in here that are worth looking at. Green pie crust has pie crusted edges. I've actually had an artist sit here and sketch this because she liked it so much. That was done by the lady, Frances Williams, who the famous Frances Williams hosta is named after. And she did this back in the 50s when there wasn't much to work with, so it's quite an outstanding plant. The other one that's real nice here is Paul's Glory. This will become brilliant yellow in the center with blue-green, deep-colored edges.
Beautiful.
It's almost impervious to damage. Another one that looks good late in the summer. Nice flowers. Everything is good about this. And look at that beautiful corduroy on the leaf. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I just love that corduroy leaf.
Well, that's the other big thing about hostas in the garden too, is that these are one of the plants that will go all summer and into fall and still look beautiful.
Most will. Some of the older varieties, unfortunately a few of the newer varieties, one of the reasons why you want to take time and see a garden, don't do well. And most hybridizers agree on that point, that we have to have the hostas of the future have to be plants that are slug resistant, nice flowers, and look good late in the summer, so that you don't have to apologize for your garden in late summer.
Yes, I'm so sorry it's getting to be fall.
All right, I wanted to show you how we use the some other subtle colors with the hosta colors. I particularly like Japanese painted fern because of the silver and light purple or lavender tones that are in it. It works so well with the yellows and deep greens of the hostas, and it's just high enough to provide a backdrop. It's being relatively early in the season, it hasn't gained its full height yet. It'll become considerably higher. And if you notice, the blue hosta in the background with it is big and sets off all the other colors.
Typically, how long would it take from the time that you begin the process to when it can actually be purchased by someone in a garden center?
That's a very popular question, and I get that a lot. It really depends on the plant. This little plant here, Pied Piper, has been registered. It took about 5 years to get that ready, but I knew the parentage of it, the plant it came from, so I had already some history to draw on. Okay. On average, it takes me 8 to 9 years, but I've had plants for 12 or 14 years working with them to make sure if there was something I was hesitant about, to make sure I didn't get them on the market. And at that, I will admit, I've made several mistakes. I wish I could pull those plants back and forget I'd done them. So everybody does that. Every hybridizer can tell you a story about a plant he wishes he hadn't put on the market. This is the West Garden, and this is the oldest part of the garden. So we have a lot of varieties over here. In the garden are over 800 varieties of named hostas, and probably 1,000 or so of my hybrids. So we won't look at every hosta today. Around that walnut tree, and incidentally that is around a black walnut, is a garden that is sculptured for the undulation effect. And if you look, you'll see we carefully plan so that the hostas gradually raise and lower as though the soil underneath was sculptured or formed, and yet it's not. That's all flat under there. So that's one of the options we have with hostas. And you'll see as we go through this garden, now we use a lot of other things with the hostas. We mix the stilbes in, which are very effective. This is filled with spring bulbs, so there's masses of color here in the spring. And if no hardy souls get down here, I'm out here enjoying it.
That's good.
And then we grow lilies in here. And we grow both Asiatic and the Oriental lilies. And I probably should be whispering this because we don't want the lilies to know. People come and say you can't grow lilies in the shade, but we don't let the lilies know about that.
Oh, that they're in the shade.
So they're happy as long as we don't give them the information. They go ahead and bloom anyway. So we have lilies in here and ferns.
Yeah, and is there any plant that doesn't like to be near hostas? Is there anything you need to be careful about if you're going to plant hostas?
You do have any smaller plants are apt to be encroached on or overcome by the hostas, including weeds. Isn't that wonderful? So there's an old adage: you only weed your hostas once a year. That's in the spring. After that, they fill and cover. I wish that was quite true. We don't characterize this as a maintenance-free plant, but it certainly lives up to its reputation as a low-maintenance plant. Right. And this garden is taken care of by me and when my wife has some time, pretty much exclusively. It's a big garden. It covers several acres, and we couldn't do this if this was a high-maintenance garden. That is what we do with hostas, what we're doing with hostas, and it's a lot of fun for me. I think the people who come here and to other hosta gardens find this is a very interesting thing. And they're really getting results in their garden, which is important.
They are. So this year, when you're thinking about trying something new in your garden, be sure and consider hostas.
We discovered that by using a boulder and planting on the east side of it, we can about upgrade our zone one zone. Really? We're zone 6 here, and I'm growing a zone 7 to 7.5 plant right beside that boulder. So a boulder can give you something right, and the protection and the ability of the boulder to modify rapid changes in temperature, not just the heat but the cold, so that it doesn't happen quickly. It's rapid changes in temperature that hurt plants a lot of the time.
There are coffee pots and there are coffee pots. If you want your Gardening for Real People coffee mug, which is microwavable and dishwasher safe, just send $8 plus $3 shipping and handling to Gardening for Real People, 560 Franklin Street, Buffalo, New York, 14202. You know, when you're done drinking coffee out of it, you might want to plant something in it. But remember to put some drainage holes in it first.
It's about time you get off the couch, put down the remote, and get into shape. At One-on-One Health and Fitness Center, you can expect the latest in high-tech equipment, aerobics classes, and certified personal trainers. For a limited time only, get a 1-year membership for only $119. One-on-One is a full-service facility with chiropractic services, nutritional programs, and babysitting services for members' children. You can expect the best from One-on-One, Western New York's premier athletic club.
If you've got some tips you're willing to share and you'd like us to visit your garden, just write to us at Gardening for Real People, 560 Franklin Street, Buffalo, New York, 14202. Include a picture of your garden with a self-addressed stamped envelope so we can return it. Container growing has become tremendously popular. And keep in mind, anything can be a container. Here's a traditional pot. But remember, all you need to make something a container, make sure you have good drainage, use a sterilized soil mixture, you're going to have to fertilize your plant, and you're going to probably have to water it more frequently than you would if it was in the ground. Here at Bill Weber's greenhouses in Gardenville, they grow just about everything in containers, including this beautiful lettuce. And I think he's also got the ultimate in container growing this year. He's got some gorgeous purple wave petunias in an old toilet. Now, this has everything you need. It's got good drainage, he's used a sterilized soil, he keeps it well watered, and wouldn't this be a beautiful addition to your backyard? This year I've got some flowers in my garden that I really like. So what I'm going to do is take cuttings of them so that I can repeat the same flower in my garden next season. Now you can do this with coleus or impatiens. I'm going to do it with some vinca, and it's really easy. All you do is cut a piece of the stem off of the plant, pull the lower leaves off of the stem and any little shoots, and then just stick this in a little glass of water. In a couple of weeks, you'll see roots sprouting from beneath that cutting, and then what you do is just put it in a pot, keep it in a pot in the house through the winter, feed it, water it, and next spring, when it's time to come back in the garden, I'll put this in the garden, and I'll be able to have the same pretty flowers that I enjoyed so much this year. I'll have them again next year. RealPeople.com. Till we see you again, get down, get dirty, go gardening. That's all I have to say, so he'll just have to stretch.
Have you ever dreamed of living in your own log home? Country's Best Log Homes magazine can make your dream a reality. Each issue, our experts give you the practical guidance you need to plan your dream log home, how to pick the log home package that's right for you, how to decorate your log home. We'll give you ideas for log home kitchens, luxurious baths, warm living rooms, intimate bedrooms, and there's more. Our financial experts will help you find the best log home mortgage. Our building experts will advise on how to design your home for maximum energy efficiency. Order your subscription to Country's Best Log Homes now. You'll receive a full year of Country's Best Log Homes magazine, including our 300-page annual buyer's guide and model home directory, all for only $19.95. But that's not all. As a free bonus, we'll send you this log home planner kit for ordering now. So call right now to get your subscription, including our 300-page annual buyer's guide, a total of 6 issues, plus your free log home planning kit, all for only $19.95.
It's about time you get off the couch, put down the remote, and get into shape. At One-on-One Health and Fitness Center, you can expect the latest in high-tech equipment, aerobics classes, and certified personal trainers. For a limited time only, get a 1-year membership for only $119. One-on-One is a full-service facility with chiropractic services, nutritional programs, and babysitting services for members' children. You can expect the best from One-on-One, Western New York's premier athletic club.